Have you ever felt like you wanted to get in your car, go drive to the nearest parking lot, nearest park, and just cry because your child was rebellious, they were disrespectful, and you just needed a breather? Or maybe you're a teacher or a coach or a mentor or a social worker that just had a really rough day with children and you just needed a break. And you're crying in the car, diffusing yourself, and just praying to God that, He gives you strength and courage, because right now you feel invisible. You feel tired, you feel depleted, you feel exhausted. And sometimes when our children disrespect us, we feel dishonored. When we're trying to guide and they just don't listen, we feel like we have no value. And we feel like we're not enough. And sometimes our worth, we measure it by our children's behavior. And we feel like we're not enough. How many of you have felt that you're not enough? I want you to look to your left and to your right and tell the person next to you, you are enough.
You are enough.
So when I was a teenager, I thought about adopting one day, but I didn't have a husband, so I didn't know if that was going to even happen. But eventually I got married and I had a child. His name is Patrick. And when he was 8, I decided to ask my husband, what do you think of adopting? We can adopt a child between the ages of 6 and 8 and, then have more of our own children. Well, we did. And the social worker came one day and said, you know what? I found your child. He's 6 years old, Caucasian, brown hair, but there's a complication. The child comes with a girl that's 3.5 and another girl who's 2.5. And then he says to us, how about adopting a group of 3 siblings? My husband and I were in shock because that was not our plan. But I prayed and prayed and prayed, and we decided to adopt. That was an experience. And parenting is already full of responsibilities. But now you're parenting children who are adopted. And the psychologist gave us a report, and the report said the parents chosen had to have sophisticated parenting skills. Now, I've never heard that before, and my husband and I are looking at us thinking, what is sophisticated parenting skills? Well, we definitely learned what that meant, because in grade 1, my 6-year-old boy ended up being suspended 8 official times, and I had many visits in the principal's office throughout grade 1, twice a week for a whole year. Now, luckily, that changed with time, and those incidents became very rare. So, that was a challenging time in my life, and there was many days where I just had enough. And so one day, I just had enough of life. I went into my bedroom, closed the door, got on my knees, and said to Jesus, how could you thought that I had the skill set to successfully parent these children? And I cried because I felt depleted. I felt not appreciated, not loved, not seen, invisible. And I said to Jesus, Jesus, can you not come here, have a tea with me, give me a chat, give me a hug, and just spend a couple minutes with me? Because I know that your hug can make me feel warmth, love, peace. And that's all I want to feel right now. I just want you. I want a hug. So I went to bed that night, crying myself to sleep, saying, Jesus, I just want a hug. The next morning, I wake up and I go upstairs. I get my children ready for school. And all of a sudden, my daughter Tia comes and says, Mommy, our neighbor's at the door. She wants to give you something. I says, oh, okay. So I go to the door, and there is my little girl that I call my little angel. She hands me an envelope. And I say to her, I says, oh, very nice, thank you. I give her a hug. I put the envelope near the table that was at the front entrance, and I say thank you, and I walk back to the kitchen. And she stops me, and she says, oh, no, Mr. McCann, you have to open it now. And it's like, okay. So I walk back, and I take the envelope, and I open it, and I take a piece of paper in. And then I look, and there's a second piece of paper, so I take that out. And I said, oh, very creative, my little angel. And she says, Mrs. McCann, I made you a hug. I looked down at my hands and I started opening the paper. And all of a sudden I realized what I was holding was 2 hands that she had cut out, and she had put a string to represent the hug. I had tears in my eyes and I was holding back. And then luckily the little boy outside said, "Bus, bus, bus is coming." And so they all ran out to the bus. And I watched at the front window as the bus was driving away because I wanted to collapse in my rocking chair and cry. I look at these hands, and for a moment, I felt God's presence. I felt that He was listening to me, that He heard me cry in my bedroom, that He was telling me I am enough, that what I'm doing is good, that what I am doing matters, and that He has given me the assignment to take care of these children, and I'm doing a good job. And I want to tell parents here tonight that you are also doing a good job. That sometimes, even when we're in moments that we feel like we are just drowning and that we are just not enough, we are enough. And we have to realize that the children's behaviors that we see in front of us, whether we're teachers or parents or coaches or mentors or social workers, that behavior is not who the child is. And I am guilty of seeing the child and thinking, oh my God, what is going to happen in the future? I parented from a place of fear instead of parenting out of a place of confidence and peace. And those hands, my little angel hands, those changed the way I see parenting, because I started realizing that God was with me, that the assignment that we are given with the children that we have entrusted to us is important. And those hands, were impactful. And I called my little angel's mom and I said, "You will not believe what your daughter did." I was crying in my bedroom and feeling depleted. And at the same time, this little girl was across the street at her dining room table. And her mom told me that she spent hours cutting out those hands until she got them perfect. And if this does not make you feel a moment of awe, how many of you have felt that kind of presence of God in your lives, that you have felt that He was speaking directly to you? I call that my magic moment. And that taught me how to parent differently. That taught me how to see children differently. Now, every child comes from a place of trauma, but I am fortunate, I am blessed because my children are who they are today because of all the people that were in their lives. I believe that takes a village to raise a child. And my children are who they are today because of social workers, coaches, parents, teachers, principals that saw them in their worst behavior and still were able to see who they are becoming in the future. They were able to see their heart and their soul and understand that they are not who they are today. They're not the crying, screaming child, the rebellious person, but they are somebody that in the future is going to be somebody important. And they saw that. They saw their growth. They saw their potential. And so I want to give you a message where, as you are parenting, as you're coaching, as you're a social worker, as you're a teacher, that your work matters. Your work matters in a child's life. And every time you're patient with the one child, every time you're present, every time you can just see the child, give them a hug, and show them that they matter, because every child wants to hear you matter. And today, I am standing here because I want to show parents that there's an impact that we can do for children. And our job as parents, as my husband says, is PPGC, patience, prayer, guidance, and caring. And that is our job. That our job is to consistently, I guess you want to say, pour into the child that's in front of you. And the word is consistently, is knowing that you are there all the time, no matter the behavior. And going through what I did with my children, I want to give you hope. I want to give you hope that there is a future, that your child, is not who he is today, the rebellious one, the one that lies. That does not define who they are today, but you pouring consistently into them, they become somebody else. And these children one day are going to grow. They're going to be independent, mature adults. And as they look back at their life, they're going to see someone who was there, who saw them in their mistakes, in their lies, in their misbehavior, and still accepted them, still poured into them, so that they can become the person that God created them to be, because God is the one that will help them grow. Your job is to plant the seed, and God will help them grow into who they're becoming. And in terms of being a person who wants to pour into them, and them looking back and seeing, somebody who was helpful to them, that somebody could be you. And these hands matter. They're showing you that you matter and that God is watching.